Hi there, I'm Dilwyn Roberts, former TV production manager, media lecturer and one-third of the Emyr and Elwyn trio which graced our night spots during the 1970s and 80s.
And I'm Rhiw Roberts, local musician, songwriter, author, playwright, and have been following and been involved with the music scene in Colwyn Bay and the surrounding area for decades.
And we're here to take you on a whistle-stop journey of recollections and memories of the music and entertainment enjoyed in Colwyn Bay over the years.
Music in the Bay, a podcast from Bayside Radio.
For the series, we've been fortunate enough to welcome some guests who were involved in the creation and the promotion of music in the Bay. Let's start on Colwyn Bay Pier and meet a man who began his career at the Pier Pavilion. And let's allow him to introduce himself.
Hello, my name is Stuart Loughland and I run Magic Light Productions along with my wife Libby Loughland, and I just want to talk about some of the entertainment that was on during the 60s and 70s and 80s when I was growing up in Colwyn Bay. I used to clog dance at school. I was taught by a guy called Rhiw Roberts. He was a very famous clog dancer in Wales. And I used to get to appear at some of these venues first, Theatre Colwyn and Colwyn Bay Pier, and for like cabaret, Welsh cabarets and things. And then eventually I got a job at the Pier in Colwyn Bay. My friend was working there and his brother wasn't very well, and so I just went into cover for a couple of weeks and I never left. They just kept me on for about 2 years. I used to do everything. That chief cook and bottle washer. I sold fishing tickets, I sold ice creams, I worked in the Dixieland. It was I can't remember the name of the Golden Fry, that's what it was called. Trust House Fortes had it at the time. And I got to meet lots of people in entertainment because I used to set the ballroom up for different shows and different events that were on there. And I cleaned as well. I used to do everything. I used to get the gear in for bands as well. I used to get paid a lot of money for doing that. In its time, for a school lad to earn that sort of money was really good. It was just like lots of bands turned up when they were on the way up, and the Bruce Dickinson turned up from Maiden, another band called Samson, and we just like got chatting with them, and it was nice to. I ended up making him egg and chips, and it was just nice, relaxed. They used to come before they did big tours, and Roy Wood turned up one day and had a chat with him, and it was like really strange because when you're a young person, even though you're in awe of because they were in the context of your job, you just got chatting with people. It was really brilliant. I loved it. I was working in the Pier and I used to buy my records because I used to do a little bit of DJing, and I bought my records from Emyr and Elwyn's record shop. And I happened to go in one day and they offered me a job, but they were a ticket agent for the Pier. So they used to sell all the tickets for the shows that were on anyway. So when I actually left there, Elwyn gave me a lot of posters and things that he'd accumulated over the years of the shows that were, and unfortunately I sold them, and I wish I hadn't now, because I had posters with Motorhead on appearing there and the Glitter Band and all sorts of, but yeah, I ended up working there. And then it was another, because they were a double act and they used to do cabaret and perform, I used to see a different aspect of entertainment in Colwyn Bay as well as just the bands at the Pier, you know. I used to go up to watch the shows, and I remember there was a lot of DJs that used to come into Emyr and Elwyn's to buy their records and singles as they were then, 45s, and they one of them was Ian Turner, and he used to do the comparing at this, so I used to know Ian, so I used to go up as well and watch them, Dilwyn and Elwyn and Emyr playing. And came Gary Williams eventually, Emyr. But and when he did the television programmes, and then they did the Rose Abbey. There used to be a cabaret room there, and they used to go. Unfortunately, lost my father when I was 18, so Elwyn was really good to me, and I used to sort of, you come in and do you know what you're doing in the evening, or come down with us, and I used to have a great laugh. I was quite honoured, to be honest with you. I learned so much watching them. What I do now, it's really helped me. My friend and I used to put the banner on for the Golden Fry. We used to put it over the side and tie it on every day, so that the people on the beach can look up and see the Golden Fry and think, oh, that's good, we'll go up there for our dinner.
Yeah.
And we used to make, but they let us do all sorts of, we were making salads and frying chips and all, and we were like 15 or 16. So I don't think they had health and safety then, but, so we put this banner out one day, and we'd just been to see Jaws in the cinema.
Oh, yeah.
We looked over the side of the pier, and lying on the beach was a shark, right? A real shark lying on the beach. It must have been about 8 or 9 foot long, this thing. Good. Lying there. So we ran back in, like, screaming practically, oh my God, there's a shark on the beach. And we'd just seen Jaws, so we're like, so the manager said to us, go and hide it. He said, because everybody sees that, they won't come on the beach, and then no one will come in the cafe. You can't know there's a shark on the beach. So we legged it down to the beach to get the shark. We picked it up, we were trying to move it. It was dead, like, you know. And this man came running over, and it was the bait digging guy that used to have a little hut. The Lee family, I think they were, and he used to dig all the worms to the fishermen, do you remember? Yeah. And he said, don't worry, lads. He said, we'll be going in a minute. It's going to a pet food company. He said, I caught it. He said, when I've been bait digging, I've noticed fish heads and things all around the end of the pier. And it was a taupe, it was like a massive, it's related to a shark, and it looks like a shark. Yeah. It's like a big dogfish, really. Yeah. But this grey thing like that. Yeah. So you can imagine, can't you? But that always sticks out in my mind, that we found the shark on the beach when Jaws came over.
As well as working as a DJ in the 70s, Stuart was also a member of several rock bands.
Tell us a bit about Harvest Moon, because Harvest Moon were quite well known around here, at least, and the chap, I can't remember his name, but
Steve Jones, and there was Glyn Perino.
Right, so Steve had the Locks Box Barbers, which was next door to where Weatherspoons is now.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. So I'm not, and they had quite a big single, didn't they?
Yeah, they had 2 singles out. One was their own, Tales of Wonder. Yeah, that came out on their own label. And then they won Battle of the Bands, the UK one. Yeah. And I remember seeing them on Granada Reports. In fact, I think I have the clips on YouTube, actually, of them on it. Yeah. God. And they had this song that they'd written. Yeah. And it won. Yeah. So they got a deal with Carys Records, a 1 single deal. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they all went on to do other stuff. I think Steve went off to form a band called Avenger, and Glyn Perino ended up in Nightwing, and they all went off to do big stuff.
Yeah, they too.
But the bands never stayed as a...
I remember seeing them really on the Pier on a couple of occasions, and they were a good band, you know.
They were Harvest Moon, and they became The Moon, because the record company didn't like the Harvest. Because the rock stuff was out at the time, it sounded a bit wimpy. It's got the Harvest Moon, you know, so the moon, you know.
Yeah. So what about your band? I mean, what were they called?
Nightline.
Nightline, okay. Talk about, there's a photograph that you sent me, actually. And they look like proper 80s hair, man.
Oh,
You've all got the makeup on, spandex pants and hair.
Do you know what it was all about, actually? It started off, there was a band called Vengeance, and there was Harvest Moon.
I remember Vengeance,
Do you remember Chris White and all and Tony Babington? I
forgot about them.
Sean and all, and there was all Gaz was in it, and there was loads of different lineups like we were. Everybody's in everybody's band swapping around. And the lineup at the time, I think it was Frank and Gaz, and then Bono turned up, and John Rogowski, who's in his son's in bands now. But I remember us having this band, and we went on and we played at the Central in Colwyn Bay, and then they came to watch us, and you could see them, all the other bands watching what you're doing. So it was right, because we weren't quite as good as players. They were in another league, really, because they were a little bit older than us. Yeah. And they'd more experience, and we got better as we went along. But you know that when you first started, so we thought, right, what we'll do is we'll wear snazzy clothes, and then we'll stand out from everybody else. So we went out and we bought some spandex trousers in Manchester, in this place called Affleck's Palace, which was like this, like a rock place, and with studded wristbands and samurai headbands and everything. We got all this stuff, and we looked right fools, you know. So we did that, and we played another gig. I think it was in the Riverboat Room in Rose Abbey. And they came to watch that. Next time we saw them, they were all wearing this spandex.
I was in a band with Bono.
So we thought, were you?
Yeah, I was
Bono was really nice.
I was in King Boss. It wasn't that long. It wasn't that actually that long, about 8 years ago.
He loved that band, you know, because he liked the dressing up as well with me. Because the others weren't into it, you know. They were like, if we have to, you know, like an eyeliner. So what we did is we just took it one step more again, because they'd done it. Right, we're going to wear eyeliner now, big feathery earrings, and grow our hair and wear makeup, and we're going to look. So we did that. And then they started doing that. So we ended up looking like Christmas trees, basically. It didn't look like a rock band, it looked like a fashion show. But yeah, it was just to keep ahead of the time. But the thing is, now people always say, I remember you in your Dorothy Perkins pants, because you couldn't get rock band pants at the beginning. So I used to have this pair of ladies Dorothy Perkins stretched into these, look like Spider-Man pants. I've still got them.
Oh yeah,
I've still got them.
Do you know, the lad said, let's have a reunion, and so I put all the clothes on. I've still got them. Imagine the leopard skin vest was a piece. I took a picture and I nearly sent it them and said, this is why I don't want a reunion with them. But I didn't, in case it appeared on Facebook, you know. But yeah, I've still got all the clothes and the wristbands and everything all in a bag. Yeah.
It's great to keep that stuff, though.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. And the music gets more attention now than it did at the time.
Really?
Get people inquiries from heavy rock radio stations and Scandinavia, and I've got to send stuff out there now. Someone's interested now in playing something and putting something together.
Really?
That's why I got in contact with Glyn Perino and Sean, and because they'd already put... Vengeance became something else.
Yeah.
They became another name. Yeah. But they all supported all the bands that came to the pier. They were the supporters. And they always used local acts, and it's good.
Yeah, it was good. Yeah.
That was your way. That was your platform at the time, because you didn't have your YouTubes and your so when we used to go from Tech and watch all the bands, there was always a smaller band, a local Zenith. Do you remember that?
Oh, Zenith.
Zenith.
Do you remember that?
That name rings a bell. Yeah.
And there was I can't remember them. I was in a band called Sergeant Fury with Snoz, Tony Hughes and all that. There was and they became Sergeant Fury, and they were Poison Dwarf, and then there was Zenith, there was Trident.
Trident,
do you remember them? Reg Marshall and drums, and all the guys from Llandudno.
Because I was turning up to the gigs, I wasn't really involved in the music scene then, as it were. You know, I wasn't in a band or anything.
And I just left Emyr and Elwyn's at that point when I went to Tech, because I had to go there to say my dad passed away. Didn't do a good job of my A-level, so I went to Tech, met Hugh, and another set of friends, and then we all ended up going to Donington and rock festivals, Manchester Apollo and the Pier and
all that.
And they were run by Mike Lloyd, weren't they? And Gary Campbell and all that.
I saw Mike this afternoon, actually.
Is he still playing the bass?
I don't know.
We all went along to this football ground, and it was like a Monsters of Rock. And because Harvest Moon, who are now called The Moon, because the record company changed the name, they said, you can be the opening act. And the bands that were on, there was Raven, there was Praying Mantis, they were quite big. The new wave of British heavy metal bands at that time, so they were quite well known at the time, all the big bands. And special guests headlining were Motorhead. The guitarist in Motorhead was the guy from Thin Lizzy, Bright Robertson, the guy with red hair, because the guitarist had left Motorhead and they'd become like a four-piece, and so it was the first time that this Thin Lizzy guitarist was going to be in it, and the guests were Harvest Moon, and Twisted Sister had come over from America, and the first time they'd ever been here. And it's documented in documentaries that the lead singer Dee Snider, he actually talks about it, so it must have really bothered him at the time. But they were told by Lemmy to come on and don't, because they were all in makeup and loads of, and we'd sort of copied them. That's where the idea with all the makeup and the spandex and things. We'd seen bands like that. I thought, well, if they're doing it over there, we should be doing it here before that. So I think they were sort of under this misconception that we weren't going to go with it. Whereas we actually loved it when we saw them, because it was brilliant. So they came on and they were swearing and effing about them, but because they were told to. Lemmy said that the British audiences will eat you for breakfast, so you need to be hard hitting. And then they all had a discussion saying, well, we're going to do some, maybe we could swear a bit. If we could, say a few shocking things, and then that might shock the audience, and they'll shut up and they won't throw bits of grass at us, do you know what I mean? It's like tins, and because you get all sorts of stuff at festivals, don't you? So there we were in Wrexham football ground, watching these bands playing, and it was quite nice, it wasn't too loud, and then Twisted Sister came on. Well, you've never heard anything. And they were swearing and cursing the audience and shouting, picking on people. And it was just awful. So because like sound waves travel in waves, don't they? So it's sort of peaks and troughs. Yeah. Because I remember doing a gig once on the Little Orme, on the Great Orme, and someone in Craigerdon heard us and told us to turn it down, but no one near there did, because it that travelling thing.
Okay.
And what had happened with the sound waves with them is it hit the hospital.
Oh.
So they were getting the full whap of this guy going and swearing and shouting. And we were all there, you know, Colwyn Bay lot turning up. We were not shocked at all, really.
No.
They all thought we were going to be shocked,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
like swearing and because we live in the outback, do you know what I mean? Like,
That's it, yeah.
You know what it's like. And yeah, it was brilliant. And so when Motorhead came on, they said, we need to turn you down a bit because we've had complaints from, and Lemmy, he's not going to turn Motorhead down, is he? So he went on, he played 3 songs, and they said, if you don't turn it down, now we're going to have to pull the plug on the football ground. All the lights went out and everything. The health and safety thing, it just went boom. And I remember Lemmy saying, do you know, he shouted something like, I can't believe that they've done this.
No.
You know,
No.
if people are going to like wreck the place, just put the lights back on and just let people. And it just all went, all because of this band.
Yeah.
And from that point onwards, that band, because they'd done it, they got lots of other bookings because they were so shocking. Yeah. And they had to stay like that in their entire career.
Back in the 70s, Rhiw Roberts was also a keen rock fan.
And we used to go down the pier all the time, watch all the we were into our, you know, heavy rock and that.
Yeah.
You know, the new wave of British heavy metal was breaking, wasn't it? So,
Saxon turned up in a SOB or something, Son or something. And they turned up, and there was about 10 people there watching. Then they went away, and in the 3 months released Wheels of Steel and came back, and there was 1,000 people watching.
I was there, yeah.
It's changed up. We had on that.
Yeah, I was there. But didn't 747 come out at the same time?
747, yeah.
I remember really clearly headbanging my head off at night. And then trying to walk it home. We're all walking home.
It was so loud, people had blood coming out of their ears. Honestly, it was that loud for Motorhead.
Couldn't lift our heads up walking home.
Wasn't
And we'd all
There's
drunk
no
on
restriction on anything. Was it? It was just...
we'd all been drinking rum and blacks, you know, that sticky, horrible thing. Like,
Do you know, like
snake bites.
Purno as well, they used to do. Purno, do you remember promotion nights? They always do it on a rock night. They just wanted to get rid of it, basically. I remember being at Roast once, walking from, and Motorhead were doing a sound check at the Pier in Colwyn Bay, and I was by the Cayley bandstand.
Oh,
walking,
yeah, on the bandstand.
And I could hear every single note and word and everything that they were singing.
And to give us a break from the chat, here are Motorhead with Hellraiser from the 1991 album No More Tears. Now let's rejoin Rhiw Roberts and Stuart Loughland.
The thing with Lemmy was my friend used to work, who, funnily enough, the guy I replaced in the Pier, who wasn't very well, when I was, he went to work as a chef in a hotel. I think it was St Margaret's or the Hope Side or something. Yeah. All the bands used to stay there.
Of course, yeah.
Motorhead turned up, and all respect to them, there were older people staying there. Yeah. And in the morning, when they came down for breakfast, Lemmy had a tie on.
Oh, that's cute.
They turned up to the Pier and all the leather and all the gear and all the stuff.
Yeah.
And when they went for breakfast, because they were in that's the sort of bloke he was. Yeah. He was a nice person.
Yeah.
I know lots of people.
Very respectful to older people, and even though he was this heavy metal, nutty, crazy, guy, he was really like.
Well, he used to live not 5 minutes from here, was it?
Yeah, he was literally. He used to go in Emyr and Elwyn.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
Oh, did he?
And the Miami bar.
Yeah.
Remember Colin Miami bar?
Yeah, I do.
And the Cornish to get the coffees from
That's
there.
That's right. Yeah.
Oh, the Miami bar.
And the coffees were nice. They were like these big milky, full of cholesterol. Coffees like lovely.
When coffee was coffee.
Yeah.
Oh God. Yeah. It was real coffee. But and it's called Blodwen's Kitchen now. Isn't it?
It was Blodwen's, and they changed the name.
He was on the corner of Blodwen's. Miami was halfway down.
Yeah.
Next to a hairdresser's, do you remember? It was half a shop.
That's right, yeah.
It's like your high stool place, and you lean on that.
Miami, yeah.
Yeah, just opposite the theatre, then Bloods was on the corner.
That's right,
wasn't it?
yeah, that's right.
And he had both, Colin.
He had both, didn't he? Yeah.
Yes.
And of course, Colin has really quite a background in theatre. His family, his mum and his dad. Yeah. And of course, he, as well as being a DJ and, a personality in himself, he was a great actor.
He was brilliant. Yeah. Brilliant actor.
I remember him in Fiddler on the Roof, which was one of the theatre. Well, it was in Prince of Wales.
Prince of Wales Theatre, yeah.
And he was Tevye in that, and he was absolutely brilliant. It was the part. It's the part that holds the whole. It's his story, and he's got his daughters, and he played it superbly. And of course,
his mum used to act as well, and his father. I think they were all involved.
Yeah, they were all involved.
They used to have the Commodore
Hotel,
in Colwyn Bay, and I think a lot of the actors used to stay.
That's right.
At the Commodore Hotel.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then come to, like I say, it's Prince of Wales at the time. It became
that.
The Theatre Colwyn then, wasn't it? But
he was a very, very talented.
Yeah, he was,
and still is. And he's still going strong.
So there's no real strong, dedicated venue anymore, is there?
No, there isn't.
There's quite a lot of live music happening, but it's all sprinkled about.
It is.
That would have been a cracking venue.
It's very difficult. I mean, we don't have a huge population.
But lots of venues did go, because the Rose Abbey went as well, didn't they? There's lots of places. The Four Oaks, Rose Abbey and the Pier.
It's sad, because, God, there's hardly any... Well, we mentioned this before, haven't we? That the music scene... I mean, I know you're busy doing stuff in Ross-on-Sea. We're looking at the 70s and 80s. God, it was busy, wasn't it?
There were bands, people coming in from like John Carroll used to work at the theatre.
That's right.
He was employed as a bass player. He was from Birmingham.
I played with John.
He's still here now.
I played with John quite a lot. He's a great guy.
But he only came for a year season. Ray Herbert booked him for the summer season.
That's
Four Oaks, I think.
At Four Oaks, probably. Yeah.
And he was in this band playing the bass, and he stayed. But it's like music in this at times now has gone underground, but it hasn't really, has it? No. But that's what it feels like.
It's just dispersed, really.
Yeah, all hidden away.
It's expensive, though, running venues. I mean, even the venues in the cities are struggling, the large towns. Yeah. So trying to keep a venue, an active venue around here must be...
It's tough, isn't it?
Yeah.
Not plausible.
It's what to do with it in between, I suppose, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. A lot of gigs, a lot of places in Liverpool now are dedicated to comedy rather than anything else. It's cheaper. You don't need a band, one guy can hold the crowd for an hour.
It's funny, it's swapped round as well, because when they do have a band, it's like once a week, or it used to be the other way round.
Yeah, exactly.
Bands every night and a comedian on a Sunday.
That's it. And it's changed.
Different age profile as well. I think the style of music has changed a lot. Yeah. So we tend to find when we're gigging around the place, or just visiting areas, that it's an older profile, definitely, in the audiences, because we used to, it's in our culture, to go and see live music.
Yeah, that's right.
There's a lot of them, again, they've been in lockdown, they don't even know what a live gig is,
No, and that's sad, isn't it? Because they don't get out, the kids don't get out. They're either playing with their,
computer games,
video and...
But there are some great projects around here for younger kids, and there's a great one just around the corner, actually, or literally next door, in fact, from here. Part of the new community hub, and it's called the Underground Artist Movement.
Oh, right.
Which is just set up.
Funny I should mention underground, but I wasn't getting at that.
It goes under the UAM, and it's run by a chap called Kenny. And Together for Colwyn Bay have donated £15,000 worth of studio equipment and recording equipment, which they have just ordered. I literally spoke to them this morning because I wanted to take this young girl that I teach bass to. So that's going to be a great facility, literally next door.
That's brilliant.
And so they're setting all that up at the moment. So that'll be a place where young musicians locally and people into recording and all that stuff can go and learn. For free. Well, there's another great project over in Llandudno called, I think it's called the Rock Project. It's been going quite a long time now. And it's for kids between, I think, sort of 8 and 18 or something like that, for young kids who want to get into music. But it's, I think it's rock music, and they put bands together and they teach them drums and guitars and basses and singing. And
wasn't there a place in Old Colwyn who
Tape?
Is that
Tape?
Yeah, they do quite a lot of that.
Is that
as well.
still?
Yeah, they tend to do more film productions and animation and stuff like that. Very well equipped up there as well.
Great. Now, to talk about punk and alternative rock, here's my colleague Hugh Roberts.
Thanks, Dilwyn. We're about to talk to Colin, who I know as Colin Ramone because he's a huge Ramones fan, he's a huge punk fan, and we're going to hear Colin's experiences and his knowledge of the local punk scene in Colwyn Bay. I'm going to just talk a little bit about my memories of punk rock emerging in Colwyn Bay. I would have been around about 14 years old. My sister would have been 15 back in 1978, and punk started appearing, and we were quite young, and it was quite extraordinary because it was such a kind of look and scene and attitude that nobody had ever seen before. It was really colourful. They had these amazing Mohicans. They had these tartan kind of pants with the bongers straps on, and these leather jackets with like crazy band names sprayed across the back. And me and Ali, we bought Anarchy in the UK, and we were listening to it. I mean, it was extraordinary. No sound had ever been like that, and we were like, "What's Anarchy?" I mean, well, I don't know, but it sounds so cool. Let's have some Anarchy. We didn't even know what it was. And then God Save the Queen as well. It's like, you can't say that. And it brought us a colour to Colwyn Bay that hadn't, I don't think, really been there. Because the scene up until then had been very sort of rock orientated, like metal and rock, and the new wave of British heavy metal was around, and that was the dominant scene, really. There were mods, there were a few skinheads with their with the braces and the DMs laced up to their to the tops of the shins. There was quite a big Northern Soul scene. So there wasn't a dominant scene. There wasn't punk didn't come in and change Colwyn Bay. It came in and added to Colwyn Bay. And thankfully the Pier catered for each of those subgenres of music. So there was plenty of rock. I mean, loads of rock music. There was all the big punk bands who were just emerging suddenly appeared. We were just wandering around Colwyn Bay, watching the old people looking at these punks going, what on earth is this? The UK media went mental, didn't it, about it? And, there's still plenty of punks around, there's... I see them. Colin obviously, is very knowledgeable and big on the scene still. There's a big weekend festival called Rebellion up in Blackpool. It's always sold out. I played at a gig in Bethesda, of all places, on a caravan park in a pub there when I was in a Ramones tribute band. Packed, and it was great. And the punks are always good fun. I really like the punks. They were good laugh, and I'm a massive fan of particularly what they call now proto-punk. It's the early American bands before the Pistols, and, the Ramones and the Stooges and New York Dolls. I'm a huge fan of that sort of sound. But I think nobody was quite ready for this explosion, and the Pistols and the Clash and all those bands only really emerged once the Ramones had played at both the Roundhouse and the Rainbow Theatre in London in 1977, very famous concerts. And there's a great story about the Ramones letting the Sex Pistols climb up the drain pipe and to get into their dressing room. And these bands, they couldn't play, they didn't know what they're doing, but that was kind of a moment which just absolutely catapulted punk into, so the Ramones are the grandfathers of punk rock, really. Even though they wanted to be a pop band, they were so bad at being a pop band, they accidentally invented punk. That's pretty much what happened, I think. It was life-changing thing for the entire country, and I think it was really pivotal. The punk scene didn't last that long. It was only a handful of years that the punk scene was really going, and then before the next thing a new scene comes along, which was the New Romantics and all that sort of kicked in. But there's lots of hardcore punk fans there still. They always sell out. They're not playing big gigs. I mean, some of these people are in their 70s now. They've still got a very, very loyal hardcore following. Yeah, I mean, the guitaring was great. But again, I hark back to the Ramones a lot because of its simplicity, and what they tried to do is strip out all their fancy, there's no guitar solos as such, there's no big drum solos, there's none of that stuff going on, because everybody was tired of the big rock, overblown egos and all that. And so I think it's about simplicity. They wanted raw, they wanted simple. They wanted to be edgy, they wanted to be aggressive, and they wanted to be an antidote to all the overproduced BS that had been going on in the rock world prior to that. So to me, as a musician, I play bass guitar in But if I like to play, heavy metal. I like to play punk, and I think punk rock to me on a bass guitar is particularly satisfying to play because you're playing downstrokes. You're not alternate strumming up and down. You're not doing any of that. You're not playing anything complicated with your fretting hand. You're just playing from the shoulder, and you go 1, 2, 3, 4, and you just crack into it. And it's such an exciting thing to do. When I was in the Ramones tribute, he was one of the best, most fun
as well. The dressing up part of it as well, wearing the bondage trousers and the straps on the back, bum flaps. A lot of the old boys didn't like it. They thought we should have been in. Look at them, we should be in a circus and all that. Because they'd never seen nothing like that before, had they? These lads standing out like with spiked hair and all that. Dr. Martens on. I used to have a pair of tartan trousers and a black bondage as well, with loads of t-shirts, Clash, Pistols, Damned. They're another one of my favourite bands as well. But they started having a lot of punk bands, and it was only about £2.50, £3 to get in at the time. As now you're talking, 20, 30, 40 quid, aren't you, for a ticket, There's a lot of punk nights there, yeah. Seen the UK Serbs play. Do you remember the UK Serbs?
Yeah.
Charlie Harper,
Gosh,
and he's 80 odd now, Charlie. Yeah, and he's still going, I think one of my favourite was the Damned. They headlined it, Antinolig, they were supporting them, They were promoting the Welsh music scene, they were. And there was the Cyrff and another punk band called Anrefn. They're from Bangor.
Oh, I didn't know that.
It started 1980, 85, the Cyrff. And they were doing a lot of Clash covers,
Oh, really?
Big Clash fans they were, singing in Welsh, but Clash songs like Jenny Jones, White Riot. They played Police and Thieves off the first album Clash did, and then they started writing their own songs. I think they lasted till about 1990, and then the favourite song they did was Cymru Slugger Llanrwst. It means England, Wales and Llanrwst, but in Welsh, very very Clash sort of track, and then they split up and they formed a band called Catatonia.
Oh, right.
Carys Matthew's Mark went to Cardiff, and she was busking outside a Club Even Bark in Cardiff. I don't know if you heard of it.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
The Manic Street Preachers played there. 1989 they played.
Oh yeah.
I heard of a punk band called The Boys. They were sort of like the Beatles of punk, yeah. A bit like the other one was the Buzzcocks. Remember the Buzzcocks?
Oh yeah.
Because he's passed away now, isn't he? Pete Shelley.
Yeah.
And then when the Pistols split, they formed a band called The Professionals. I don't know if you remember them. They did a song with Ronnie Biggs, didn't they?
No way.
No One Is Innocent, yeah?
Yeah.
Ronnie Biggs was doing time till he'd done a punk, and now he said he's seen a light, and he called himself a punk, wasn't he?
Apart from rock and punk, the 1970s were also an important decade for cabaret at the Four Oaks in Erius Park. The thing with the Four Oaks, it was quite sort of recently built in comparison to the Pier and to the Theatre Colwyn, because it was built in 71, and it was quite a big room as far as cabaret was concerned, and you could serve meals there, plus they had another cafeteria downstairs, didn't they? And the bar was quite a large bar as well, so it was quite a big space, and in fact the first cabarets, I wasn't involved in them, but the first cabaret came up in 1972 with Beryl Hall. I don't know if you remember Beryl.
I remember the dog.
With the dog.
Yeah,
the dog. Yeah. She made a big name for herself on television. She appeared on Blue Peter with Ben the dog, and Ben, when she would sing a specific song. It had to be this particular song, and it was unaccompanied, and she belts the song out, and the dog, as if he was in pain, would whoop along with her, and it was and of course this was a principal part of her act.
I remember her doing that.
Yeah. And so, but unfortunately, the actual cabarets didn't go down as well as they expected in Colwyn Bay, so she didn't appear. I don't think she appeared in 73. I know she was there in 72 because we had posters, and Emyr and Elwyn had posters up and so on, but it wasn't until 74 when Emyr and Elwyn actually made their first appearance. And I tell the story about meeting Jeff Shaw, the entertainment manager, and telling him to go and see them. They were doing a gig in the village, a community centre in Tanlan. And so I said, well, you see, you need to see them work. I said, because, they can hold an audience. And of course it was Emyr. And so he booked him straight away for the first season. And it went well. And, we did every Monday night for about 12 weeks right through that summer. And then it developed through the winter, and then we did 2 nights a week the following year, and they were still there after 4 years. It was 77 that was the last appearance by Emyr. By then he was Gary Williams, right, and only known as Emyr in Colwyn Bay, really. So he by then he'd become a character on Pobl y Cwm, the Welsh soap, and so his
film as well, isn't it?
Oh yeah, he did. Well, he made a film.
Betty Davis or something.
Oh no, yeah, he did in Pemachno. Betty, not
How
Betty.
Green Is Your Valley, was it?
That's it.
Was
yeah.
it that?
Yeah. It was How Green Was My Valley with Catherine Hepburn. George Cukor. George Cukor was the director, and he didn't have a big part, but he was
seeing him in it though.
Yeah. And it was filmed in the Sbati van, that was the village, and he made a lot of friends. A lot of the extras were involved in it, local, So he made a.
He used to drive from here down to do Pobl y Cwm, didn't he? Every week.
Every week. Yeah, every week. It was tough, it was a tough period for him, and of course the pantos as well. He did. He did from 76. He did 5-6 pantos between 76 and 84. And so he was really busy, and by the end of the 80s he was a regular on BBC Radio, and and doing quite a bit. And actually they pulled the plug on Galw Gary, the comedy series, in 84, but they reintroduced it in 89, and he did make one more series of it in 89.
Remember a Christmas special, and they filmed it at Venue Cymru, didn't they?
That's right. Yeah, we did that. We were busy in in the 80s with a lot of television, and of course I was involved musically, and with the comedy, because we'd do a lot of filming around Llandudno, Digamway, Colwyn Bay, and we had no studio, so that was the thing. It was, and then of course by the time the 1980s, it's about 89 when Bad Kid, which is the local production company, actually created their own studio, and his program in 89 was the first to be produced in the new studio.
Where was that?
That was in the Gibbon estate in
Carnarvon. Yeah, the paper factory or something. Was it near there?
Well, it was in the same area.
I remember that being there.
And it was being built by local builders, and sadly it went bankrupt in the mid-90s. But he was active when things were going well for Welsh productions, and sadly there was a new Director General of SOC, and he was from Carmarthen, and he was keen on giving Carmarthen engineers and actors more work, so the Carnarvon work shifted.
That's funny, because I did a programme in Carmarthen in the Lyric Theatre. They moved it, they filmed it in there. Yeah.
Eddie Idris. Do you remember him?
Yes, I do.
The juggler. A lot of people like that. And of course, they just come up and I say, well, what would you like me to play? Oh, well, some of them have the music.
We got dots for you,
Yeah, got dots here. Oh, okay, fine. And I'd have a 4-piece piano, bass, drums. Well, that was an organ, bass, drums, and lead guitar and guitar. And it was, it was 5 days work, 2 shows a day.
Great, that, wasn't it?
Great, two shows a day. Yeah, enjoyed that.
Yeah, I remember that one.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the last few I remember, and
Yeah.
I went and worked away after that. I went to Camelot Way and...
Yeah. Of course you were doing all that work.
It was part-time at that point. I was still working at Boots. Daytime. I hadn't given up my day job.
Yeah. Well,
I gave up my day job.
Yeah.
I was in a rock band in the evening and I was doing prescriptions the next day. I was in the pharmacy doing prescriptions, after driving back from Cardiff and having an hour's sleep,
Yeah, that's
I'm sure they'd be very pleased to hear that.
Yeah. Oh, my God. And as you say, taking a chance to do it full time. Because, I remember we did the same in 76. We were offered a pantomime with the Welsh Theatre Company, and we had to stop. Elwyn had the shop. He managed to get managed. He got, I forget his name now, the guy that used to work for him.
Was it Les?
Les,
yes,
Les went and managed the shop.
Who was the DJ at the Pier for Lynn, wasn't he?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And then Elwyn, it was I had an aerial erection business, we used to put aerials up, and because Emyr was actually selling in...
He was a rep, wasn't he?
He was a rep, yeah. He was a rep selling, and he would sell portable transistor radios and things like that, around the different markets in North Wales. But we gave it all up, and we took a hell of a chance to do this panto, hoping that 97 was going to be a successful year. And, well... It wasn't massively successful, but we made a living, we would be doing a lot of work around Wales and in the clubs all over the northwest.
That was the turning point.
That was the turning point.
I didn't realise that.
It was a tough year, 77.
Yeah.
And then...
That was the Jubilee year, wasn't it?
Exactly, yeah. So it was busy,
Punk came out then. Yeah. And they were on their way to the Pier.
That's right. And that was really where, your work, who sort of, you're in the 60s and 70s, were, in the Pier, and with you as well. Stuart was...
You'll be lucky to be in both places, really, haven't you?
You crossed the line, really, didn't you?
You're right in the middle there,
Dilwyn Roberts here once again. Now, when I began doing my research for this podcast, I soon realised that the most detailed information about my gigs in Colwyn Bay could be found in my pocket diaries. Every diary from 1972 to the late 80s contains details of all the artists that appeared as guests at the Four Oaks. As I look through the diaries, I notice that one guest musician appears much more often than any other. And he's here right now. I'm very pleased to welcome Bryn Chamberlain. Now, Bryn, let's begin way back in the early days.
Right, Dylan, nice to be here. Thanks for asking me. We're going back to the 60s now, when me and Eric Starr,
that's it.
We lived in Kemmis. Andy Woodall, he was a drummer. Yep. And Gordon Humphreys, he was a bass guitarist. But there was a couple of bass guitarists before Gordon, but they moved away. And there's just the four of us from this little village in Carys Bay. I don't know how we did it, but it was amazing, really, that being in a small village like that, and the four of us, and we became quite famous in the North Wales circuit. We started off as a bit of a skiffle group, when Lonnie Donegan and all them went going about,
Yeah, of course.
And then in the early stage, they had the tea chest with a stick and as a bass thing, boom, 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 And then we had ukuleles to start with.
Of course,
Not proper guitars. And we used to, go around singing in the village hall and stuff like that. So then it transformed then, and we started doing stuff like Cliff Richard and the Shadows and stuff like that. And I didn't play the guitar then, I just sang there like the Cliff Richard with the Shadows behind us. Anyway, at the end of the day, we progressed from there when the Beatles came out and the Rolling Stones and all that, and we started copying them. And then, we got decent guitars, the whole lot and what have you. Lemmy used to come and see us a lot, and he did a programme with us for a TV programme, and he commented on how good we were at the time. Anyway, we just progressed, and then in the end we were going all over the country, everywhere, up towards Redcar, up north, and everywhere down Cardiff.
Yeah.
Singing in different clubs and pubs and what you call it,
Yeah, and you became really. I mean, you caught the ear and the eye of a producer who was actually very well known at the time, who was very interested.
Joe.
Yeah, Joe Meek.
Yeah.
And you did record. Did you do a single for him?
Yeah, we wrote a song called Suzanne.
Yeah.
For him. How that came about was there was a talent competition for groups in Rhiw,
right.
And the ones who won that, they could go down to London to Holloway Road, where he had a studio above a leather shop there, and he told us to write a song. So we wrote a song called Suzanne. We went down to London to record it, and the woman who owned the flat where he had the studio, she was in charge of the leather shop underneath, and she wasn't very happy with Joe because all the groups that were going there, Tornadoes and all them, a lot of big stars. He refused to have Tom Jones, to be honest with you. Did
he?
Yeah, he did. And he refused the Beatles as well in them days, but he was a great producer.
Yeah.
He had good effects.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Telstar was the big hit,
and then John Layton he did
Tell Laura, was it?
No, Johnny Remember Me.
Oh, Johnny Remember Me.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah.
He's still going out. Anyway, at the end of the day, with Joe Meek, he recorded us. We came home to Spain then, and we were just waiting to hear from him to see if he'd got us a record contract with one of the big Decca or Pi or whoever was going in them days. Anyway, we waited and waited, and nothing came of it at that particular time. So the next thing that happened was the I think he lost the plot a bit towards the end, and the woman who owned the shop and the flat, she couldn't stand the noise and stuff like that, so they had a big argument. Not noise, with the groups being there all the time, up and down, up there, and she used to bang the ceiling and all that. Anyway, he lost it one day, and he had got the shotgun. He shot himself and he shot the landlady at the same time.
Did he?
And that was the end of that. The end of Joe Meek, the end of recording contracts or whatever it was going to be.
Yeah.
And that was the end of us going to London. But, it was an all experience to us.
It was, yeah.
Yeah, all experience.
Well, it'd be nice to be able to listen to the song Suzanne, which was released by Joe Meek.
Yeah.
So we'll just listen to a clip from that now.
Yeah, why not? Why not?
Each night I look at the moon above. Each night I pray. I wait as the nights go by and the passing of the day. Oh, my Suzanne, whoa, whoa, my Suzanne. Each night I look at the stars above. Each night I pray for a word from the one I love. She'll return to me someday, my Suzanne. Whoa, whoa, my Suzanne. Time goes by so slowly when your love's away. If you dream your dreams away, love will come one day. The stars at night, they tell me different things. They tell me you're untrue. I don't believe a word they say. I'm so much in love with you, my Suzanne. Whoa, whoa, my Suzanne. someday I guess another love I'll find to make my dreams come true. Even then I know I'll find I am still in love with you, my Suzanne. Whoa, whoa, my Suzanne. Whoa, whoa, my Suzanne. Whoa, whoa, my Suzanne.
So coming on from your time with the Strangers, of course, then the group disbanded in the mid-60s, late 60s?
Yes, it was about 1965.
Yeah.
We packed it in. We'd been going for about 3 years and what have you. And I think we'd done the rounds as much as we could. So everything stopped. So Eric and I, he started going out singing on his own.
Yeah.
And then he got a partner to go with him. And then he was making a bit of money, so I thought, I've got to jump on this one myself.
Yeah.
Make a bit of money. So I started going out singing. And I was doing all right, getting plenty of work.
Yeah.
And Eric and I used to join up together now as a duo.
That's
now
right.
and again, you know.
Yeah, that's right.
Chamberlain and Star.
Yeah, that's right, because I remember because at that time, it'd be sort of late 60s, early 70s, I was playing as a resident organist in the Labour Club in Llandudno
That's
Junction.
right, yeah.
With Johnny Walters from Yorkshire on the drums, yeah.
Yeah.
He was a character as well.
Well, you backed me a few times there, didn't you?
Yeah, I did, yeah. And I remember you coming first very early on, sort of with Eric, and then subsequently as a solo act. And of course, we always used to play accompany you.
You did, and you did well, because I didn't have any song sheets or anything like that.
No,
we just used to busk it, didn't we?
That's right, yeah.
And it turned out bloody good.
Yeah,
and it used to be packed out, didn't it?
Absolutely. The Labour Club in those days. I mean, it was 7 o'clock. I mean, I'm not saying they came for. Didn't come to see us, they came to play bingo. But
of course they did.
Said that after the bingo had finished, they would stay in the club and carry on until 11 o'clock.
Absolutely.
And it was always chocker, wasn't it?
Absolutely, yeah.
You know, and those were great days for clubs. I mean, we were talking about this when we were talking to Stuart and Rhiw, how it's changed entertainment in North Wales compared to what it was like in those days.
Oh God, yeah.
Because I've got notes of you gigging in the Four Oaks in the 70s.
I did a lot there.
You did a hell of a lot there. You did at least 20 or 30 gigs during the summer.
That's right.
On the Sunday, on the Wednesday night family nights, plus the Emyr and Elwyn events. Then you were playing at the Legion in Conway, Llandudno Junction Labour Club, the Legion in Llandudno, Colwyn Bay, and various hotels
all over the place.
Yeah, in Llandudno and in Colwyn Bay.
Yeah, Prestatyn and everywhere like that.
Yeah.
And anyway, Eric and I, like I say, we sang together at Chamberlain Star. So we thought then at one time, Eric knew this bass guitarist, John Restall.
Oh, right, yeah, John
Restall, right, yeah. Okay. Brilliant bass guitarist.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Mike James, he was a drummer, great drummer, and he was a performer on his own anyway.
He was,
well, yeah. And a keyboard player.
Phil Hampson?
No. I did a bit with Phil as well, fair play. No,
in the clubs or in Yeah.
So we had it was called the Chamberlain Star Band.
Ah, that's it. Yeah.
And then we used to do Colwyn Bay Theatre, Llandudno Theatre, and we were backing some famous names as well, didn't you see?
Yeah, exactly.
And then I did a lot of stuff with the Tremolos and Bobby V and stuff like that.
Yeah.
on comparing the shows,
Yeah.
and they were the stars and stuff like that, you know.
Yeah.
In the theatre in Llandudno.
In the arcade, yeah.
Yeah, in the arcade, yeah.
Yeah.
That's why they pulled it down, see. Yeah, so they'd had enough of me there. And, we did the new theatre as well, Chamberlain Star Band.
Yeah. The North Wales, what is now Venue Cymru.
Venue Cymru,
yeah,
that's the
right,
one, yeah. Yeah, so happy times.
Yeah.
To be honest, it was varied because I was out on my own,
Yeah.
and then out with Eric, and then with the Chamberlain Star Band,
Yeah.
and we did quite a few in the Cottage Loaf in Llandudno,
Yeah.
and we never rehearsed. The four of us never rehearsed together. They were competent,
That's right.
you know, and they were good musicians.
Yeah, I mean, it was it was a time when there was plenty of work in entertainment
Oh my
in
God!
the clubs.
7 nights a week.
Yeah, yeah,
I used to do 7 nights a week.
yeah.
And
No, it's a shame that that's not happening anymore. I
No
mean,
way.
it's to do with people's habits change and
finances as well. They can't afford to have entertainment every night of the week.
No, you're right. But we were lucky, Bryn, to have at that time. I think we got through the 70s and 80s.
Oh, brilliant.
When the clubs were busy.
Oh, the bussing.
And and we we were lucky to be around at that time, really.
Yeah.
You know?
And you know, with the Four Oaks, and when you were there, and they had like a lovely cabaret room, didn't they? There?
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
And with the round tables and everybody sitting around, and then and there was a bit of dance floor in the front.
That's right.
They used to get up dancing and stuff like that.
That's it. Yeah, yeah. I mean, it was perfect. It was the right size, and it was the right sort of design and atmosphere.
Yeah, it was.
You had that atmosphere.
That's right.
That the room was suited to creating cabaret. Yeah.
Yeah. There was a place in Llandudno called Llandudno Hall.
Yes.
And my brother got us a job there on a Sunday night.
Yeah.
They'd been having groups and stuff like that in there, and they weren't doing so well. So we started doing every Sunday in Llandudno Hall.
Yeah.
Okay, people didn't know us to start with. After about 2 or 3 weeks, right, the place was packed.
Yeah.
Every Sunday.
Yeah.
Every Sunday.
Yeah. We played there, Emyr and Elwyn and I played there, but not very often. Once, twice, I think we played there.
Right.
But you cornered it.
Oh yeah, we did.
Yeah.
We did it.
It was amazing.
We did it all right.
It was really popular.
Yeah. Well, in the Four Oaks, when you were with Emyr and Elwyn and all that, I used to be support.
That's right.
Wasn't I?
Yeah, well, I've got the dates here.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Bryn, I'd just like to really say thanks for coming in and telling us all about. Well,
thanks for asking us.
Your memories of the golden days of entertainment in Wales. You were part and parcel of it.
You're absolutely right.
From the beginning right the way through.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Bryn.
You're very welcome. Thank you, Dilwyn.
Cheers.
Happy days.
Yes, indeed. And there we are. My thanks to Stuart Loughland, Rhiw Roberts, Colin Jones and Bryn Chamberlain for sharing their memories of music in the Bay. In our next episode, we'll be looking at the history of Theatre Colwyn and the mods and rockers of the 1970s. Music in the Bay is a Bayside Radio production, kindly supported by the UK Shared Prosperity Fund and the Cray Conwy Town Team.